Hi and welcome to Ari's Cake Creations. I'm Sarah. If you're new to sugar flower making but want to take it to the next level, the Cosmos flower is a great one to get started with. It's easy but pretty and impressive. So let's get started. As always, I've listed all of the equipment needed in the description box below. Again, not wanting to leave anybody out, so if you don't have this cutter to make this flower, I have included a template. Now, the template that I've included is actually quite a versatile one and can be used to make the Cosmos, the Coreopsis or Calliopesis flower, which is also commonly known as a tick seed. So I've included the small, medium and large size cutter. So just click on the link in the description box below to take you to the free template. So we'll begin by making the centre, so you'll need some 24 gauge wire and some yellow gum paste just to get you started. You are going to make a hook in the actual wire itself. If you have a small set of scales, then you need to weigh about 2 grams of gum paste. If you haven't, don't worry, your gum paste just needs to be a ball size of around 1.5 centimetres in size. Condition your gum paste with a small amount of vegetable shortening, then actually roll the ball of gum paste into a teardrop shape. Then brush some edible glue onto the hook end of the florist wire and push that hook end into the pointed end of the teardrop shape. Make sure that you secure the gum paste to the wire carefully by twirling it in between your fingers and then pulling off any excess. Now, the difference with this is that we're not going to keep it in this teardrop shape. We are actually going to flatten the base of it. Now, if you just turn it round and gently rub it against a flat surface to flatten off the rounded end, but be careful that the wire does not poke through. Take a small ball tool and make a small dip in the centre. Then take your small scissors, and ideally some scissors that have curved end. If you haven't got those, straight will work too. And then just begin to clip, literally small clips into the gum paste, just so that it kind of roughs it up a bit and then begins to look like a textured surface right on that middle centre part. In the centre and around the edges of some species of Cosmos, they have almost like some really dark raised, almost like stamen-like bits. I don't know if they are stamen, but what I'm going to use is some very, very fine stamen that I actually dusted with Sugar Flares, Grape Violet and Tree Bark in crystal colours. So I just mixed those colours together to dust the stamen. Once the stamen is dusted, literally lightly brush some glue onto the tips, and then we're going to use the cornmeal and colour mix so that it actually looks like pollen. So again, this is fine cornmeal mixed with Sugar Flares, egg yellow and primrose mixed together, and then we're just going to tap the end slightly with this colour. Set the stamen aside to dry and then move back onto the centre and brush that quite liberally with glue, but make sure it's evenly spread and not gloopy. And then we're also going to dust that into the fine cornmeal mix as well, so that is also covered over with the pollen as well, with the edible pollen. Cut the ends off the stamen and then take a pair of tweezers to help you actually glue them into the actual centre. Now, you will need to do this when the centre is still soft, so do not wait until the centre is actually firm, because it's much easier to push the stamen into the centre while it's soft. Just to add some shading around the centre of the middle, I also use the same colour that I used to brush on the stamen as well. Don't need to brush too much on, just a small amount just to add a bit of colour. Now at this stage I think I was being impatient and I knocked off quite a bit of my pollen from my stamen, so I decided to actually brush some edible glue back onto the stamen again and re-dip it back into the edible pollen. So if you have the same issue, then do the same that I'm doing. Once you've completed the centre, you can move on to making the petals. Now for the petals, I've actually got some very light pink gum paste. I'm also using the veiner that I used for the peony. You will also need some lengths of 28 gauge florist wire as well. Cosmos flowers generally have 8 petals, so that's what we're going to cut out. Roll out the gum paste thinly over the groove board. Place your petal cutter over the groove line. The groove line should come just about halfway or just under halfway of the actual petal cutter itself. Again, if you don't have the petal cutter, you can do this with a template as well in exactly the same way. Just use a very sharp knife or scalpel to cut round the petal. So before I cut out all of my petals, I wanted to show you how to actually texture the petal and then set it to dry. So again, take your 28 gauge wire, brush it lightly with some edible glue, and then carefully thread it through the groove by holding it in between, lightly between your index finger or second finger and thumb, and then carefully thread the wire through. And then vein your petal. Carefully remove your petal from the veiner and then onto a soft pad to actually take your ball tool and run it around the edge just to thin the edge further. Now again, on Cosmos flowers, just right in the center along the top edge, the middle section comes out slightly. Then take the wide end of the Dresden tool and then just literally slightly frill out or pull out the edges again, just to soften them so they have a soft frill to them. Then turn the Dresden tool around and use the actual finer end just to run it over the surface. The Cosmos flower petal is fairly flat, so we don't need to actually ruffle it at all or actually dry it in any shape. So just place it into a spoon and it just needs to curve slightly into that dip part of the spoon, and then you can set it aside to dry, and that's it. Prepare all of the petals in exactly the same way. When your petals are dry, you can choose to leave it like this or dust it in a variety of colours. Now the Cosmos colour comes in a wide variety of colours, so you can choose whatever you want to do. Now I'm continuing my theme here of pink, so I'm using some pink shades. Assemble your flower by preparing the petals. Now on this particular petal, we just need to angle it at a slight angle, like 45 degrees. Have your florist wire, so we're using light green florist tape, cut out, and then we'll take our center and again carefully place the petal up to the center. Now we want to make sure it's butted up underneath, and then begin to tape your petal on. Now we're going to begin by taping on the first 4 to 5 petals before taping on the last 4 to 3 petals. Before bringing all of the florist tape all the way down the stem, add an 18-inch, one single 18-inch gauge wire to the stem just to give it some extra support, and then continue taping that florist tape all the way down. Now again, you could choose to leave the flower at this stage, or you can go on to making the calyx and the leaves. Now they're really simple to make, so I really suggest and recommend that you do it. The Cosmos leaves and sepals and calyx, are also, they're quite spindly, so if you actually made it in gum paste, they would probably break quite easily. So doing it with florist wire makes more sense. All you need to do is take the florist wire, florist tape, stretch it, and then twiddle it between your fingers, leaving probably about a centimetre length at the end so we can attach it to the actual stem And that's it. So you need to make about 8 sepals for the calyx part. And then the part that's actually left at the end, we're just gradually going to, or carefully going to secure that to the stem itself. Literally secure the first one on, then do the next one on the opposite side, then do another one and the other one on the opposite side, and then just add the rest of the sepals in between. And once you've got all 8 on, that's it, it's all done. Just use a small amount of florist tape to gently secure all of those tapes on so that they don't drop off, and that's your sepals completed. If your sepals are too long, you can just take a pair of scissors just to trim them down to the length that you want them to be. Now for the leaves, it's exactly the same process as making the sepals, but we're actually going to bunch them so that it almost looks like branches. So we're going to use some 28 gauge wire again. So the length that we're using here, as I said before, is about 8 centimeters in length. So stretch the florist tape and then literally just twiddle it in between your fingers, again leaving quite a length, probably around about 3 centimeters or so, 4 centimeters at the end. Now you will also need some smaller lengths of about 5 centimeters again, so they will make up your shorter lengths. Take one of the longer lengths and the shorter lengths, twist them together. Cut off the end of the shorter length, then take your 28 gauge wire and then wrap the longer length around the wire so that secures it to the wire. Then we're going to prepare all of the other leaves in exactly the same way and actually attach them to the wire with the excess bit that's left at the end. So for the leaves, you will want to make some that only has maybe 2 or 3 leaves on there, and maybe some that has more, 4 or 5, so that it kind of adds some variety when we actually tape them onto the actual stem of the flower itself. So taping the leaves to the actual stem, so place the less amount of leaves to the top, and obviously as you go down the actual stem itself, the most amount of leaves needs to be towards the bottom, so you can actually stagger them either side of the actual stem itself, so that it kind of adds some variety and texture to the actual stem itself. Once you have all your leaves on, then you can just use your fingers to gently move the leaves into place. See, I told you it was easy. Now you have this gorgeous, beautiful, pretty cosmos flower all made. Now, as I said before, this flower has a wide variety of colours, so I actually got carried away, and because it is so easy to make, made a range of colours, and you can do the same depending on what you want to use it for, but it looks absolutely gorgeous on cakes or even on cupcakes. I really hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial and will definitely give it a go, because it's such an easy flower to do, but also takes your skills to the next level if that's what you want. Don't forget, if you make any of the tutorials that I've shown, including this one, to share it with me over on Instagram or Facebook using #AriseCakeCreations. I really would love to see your work. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified anytime I upload any new videos. Okay, thanks for watching. See you soon.